Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through passion and purpose. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a special guest with us today. We are streaming via YouTube. So if you have any questions out there, please feel free to put them in the comment section for our guest today, and we're happy to read them. So without further ado, Andrew, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you invited me, and I'm glad to assist any way I can in perhaps opening the curtains to what I do, so to speak. So make it a little bit easier for people to venture into the world that I've been in my entire life.
Yes, so let's jump right into that. What is your exact title and your occupation? What do you do?
Oh my gosh! If I cut 90% of it out, it boils down to actor, writer, director, producer. That's the simplified version.
And so for my audience, a lot of interest has been in the acting portion. Now, what did you go to college? Did you have to get any certifications? What did that look like?
Well, let me run through as much as I can. Um, I started out in musical theater at the age of 4. My mother had a cabaret company. I became a singer. I did a lot of musical theater. I then studied opera in Canada. I then went on to study film and television through different schools, different casting directors, through Eric Morris, through James Best, and learned a lot of the different techniques, all the way, from Stanislavski to Meisner, etc. I learned as much as I could as a whole, as an actor, anywhere I could, and I still look to keep up with, the way changes are and the technicalities of it. And then I also got into working behind the camera, so I understood technically what was going on around me as an actor, so that I could look at the way things were set and understand, the parameters in which I needed to perform in. And that also helped me when I wrote, because it helped me view writing from the perspective of a director and also from an actor. So I had more than one view of how everything operated and all the elements, how they fit together, how all this complication, which it really is complicated if you look at it, all manages to fit together and make it work.
So, I have a lot of, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and there's an Actors Guild that we have here. I believe LA and Atlanta's a big town for that. So I talk to a lot of actors who are also do different careers, banking, Uber drivers. What is the key? I get questions all the time, Zach, can I really be an actor full time? Can I be a professional actor? What does it take to get to that level? And how does somebody begin to break into the industry since it's so competitive?
My view, over the last 50 odd years of being in the business, is timing is everything. Being in the right place has a lot to do with it, knowing the right people, learning, getting yourself in front of casting directors so they can see you. I think your primary age to become a successful actor that works a lot, which would you should consider to be very fortunate if you're working a lot and you're making your living doing it, because only a very small percentage of actors actually can say that you know they made tons and tons of money. Now there is a specific age group, and that usually runs anywhere from 18 to about 40, where you've got the biggest group that is requested. Now, if you take a lot of time to look over castings, you will notice that 80 to 90% in that age bracket is what is called for. It very seldom are the very young, and very seldom is anybody over 50, 55 ever called. So you're limited by how many calls you could possibly go out and work for.
And how, you were able to do it and make a living from it. How important was networking, would you say, in your career?
Oh, it's exceptionally important to network. It's also important to have humility, have kindness, be accepting. Learn to take the negative part of the business, which is when you audition and you don't get a job, it doesn't mean that you weren't any good. It just means that somebody else fit that part better than you did on that particular day, and that parameter changes, you know, all the time, daily, instantly with every audition. It really is in the eye of the director and the producers as to what they see, and then they're looking past what you look like as to do you have the skills and the talent to bring across the character that you're presenting.
And I'm sure a lot of students are going to be listening to this interview because they're very interested to see how, um, an actor, a professional actor, has made it through. What tips would you say they can do right now? Let's say they're doing these, showing up to auditions. What tip? How can they get better?
I think the primary goal is to learn from any source you can. Anyone that has knowledge, that has been in the business a long time, casting directors, actors, producers, anybody that you can learn from. No one has bad advice. You may hear a lot of the same stuff, but you're always going to take away something from each individual teacher. So every teacher has something valuable to you. And whenever you can, that's what you should be doing. The other thing you should do is be around other actors. Practice your craft, work in front of the camera, critique yourselves and critique, what you're looking at. Be able to put yourself in the position of a casting director and a director and really look past your the picture of yourself. Now, most actors hate watching themselves, but in order to become a professional, you really have to get comfortable with looking at yourself and going, okay, look past, the crooked teeth, the one eye's green, the other one's yellow. Oh, my hair's thinning out. Oh, I'm half bald. Um, I can't hear out of one ear. You got to start ignoring all the flaws because you're being booked based on what you look at first. Now can you now can you bring your talent and your craft forward and present something that really makes that director go, "Wow, I was touched by that." And the only way you're going to get that is to get everybody's different perspectives because if you go in front of 10 different directors, for instance, you are going to get 10 different viewpoints. Each director has their own view. And that's what you have to take into account when you're doing stuff. And once you get to learn what those specific people want, then you can present to them exactly what it is they're looking for. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by learning about them, learning about their background, learning the genres they're into. That's stuff you can do on your own, that you can go on the internet and learn, in your own time.
That's so true because, like in the speaking business, a lot of speakers don't like to go back and watch themselves, which I'm amazed by. That they don't, professional speakers don't want to go back and hear their own presentation, but it's almost like you have to because you have to see what parts you're missing and where you can improve. I'm sure acting just feels the same way, where you're looking back and you're like, well, you know, like you said, physical appearances that you don't like, you have to kind of look past them or the way your voice set, whatever it is. So that's great advice. What's something you're passionate about in your career? What do you love about your job?
I pretty much love just about everything. I think it's the only job where you can literally work 24/7, 12 to 16-hour days, and actually it goes by in a flash. And when you're not doing it, you feel like something's missing in your life. Um, and doing something you love, that's just how it feels. And I love what I do. I love writing, I love producing, I love directing, and I love acting. So all those elements together are just fabulous. Yes, it's hard work, when you're actually doing something, but it's enjoyable and it goes by really, really quickly. And then you can sit back and take a break or take a rest and go, wow, that actually came out pretty good. As actors, we're always very self-critical. So we'd say, yeah, it was pretty good, but the director shooting it, the other producer that's shooting you is going, wow, that was perfect. And you're like, okay. As long as they're happy, as long as the audience is happy, that's all that matters.
What would you say? I talked to students in the Actors Guild who moved to Atlanta. They may have finished their degree in acting or performance or theater, and their parents are not really on board with their career decision. There's a lot of pressure in today's society to make the most money in a professional white collar career, especially after finish your 4 year degree. What would you say to those students that are feeling the pressure from parents or external forces like, what in the world are you doing?
Well, uh, I'll tell you, having been in this business over 50 years, I had the same pressures. I generationally, I don't think those pressures change. As parents and being one myself, you always want the best for your children. You want stability. You want future. And no one really looks at the acting profession as a job. And really, it is. It's probably one of the most difficult jobs to survive in on the planet. It's exceptionally hard, and it takes a lot of hard work with very little in return, especially in the early days. So you really have to stick it out, and you have to draw the line between, it's is it your parents' life you want to live, or is it your life you want to live? And I recently had a discussion with my son about it, my youngest son, but not acting. He's not in the acting field. He wanted to do something, and his grandparents on my ex-wife's side had a whole different idea of what they wanted him to do. So he came to me and he said, Dad, what do I do? And I said, well, son, um, this is your life. What's going to make you happy? Because I can't live your life and I can't make you happy. So whatever you decide to do, I'm behind you. And he said, well, that's what I really want to do. I don't want to do what they want me to do. I said, well, then that's what you need to do. So the best advice I can give to students that are going through that right now is try to have an adult conversation with your parents and say, this is something I love. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but it's something I really want to pursue, and I prefer to have your support. And hopefully they'll understand.
Wanted to pick your brain about something. So in my book, I write about performance and arts careers because I've had a lot of people come up to me either in acting or, since we're so close to Tennessee, a lot of country music singers will go to Nashville and try to get their career in music. So just want to ask you, this is my advice for people and students. I wanted to see if what you came up with too, since you're in it. I always tell students, fulfill your dream, follow your passion. If you really think acting or country music is something you want to be, do it. Do it after your degree. Go for it. But give yourself a specific time frame. And don't go over there to goof off, and know that you're probably going to have to take another job. You're going to have to work Uber. You're going to have to wait tables, and you're going to be working a lot of hours. You're going to have to really put 100% of your effort in to do this. But also, you don't want to be 70 years old and still trying to be a country music singer. There's a finite time that we have on the earth. So you might go over there. And for example, I talked to a guy in my book. I tell the story about he wanted to go to Nashville. And I said, give yourself 3 years. If you're not going to make it as a country music singer in 3 years, pour your life into it. Do what you can. Well, guess what? After 2 years, he had met a bunch of contacts around by him singing at the bars. He went into residential real estate and he loves it, and he's still doing it now. How do you think that? What do you think of that advice?
I think it's good advice, but the dynamics have changed somewhat. There's the Because of the shift in technologies and the way things are going right now. I think you've got a much larger window, so you're allowed to kind of give yourself a little bit more time. There's a lot of platforms out there. There's a lot of different streaming things going on. There's a lot of avenues that you can pursue. It's just a question of getting into that loop. Now, I think if you target a 5 to 7 years, just 100% everything you got, and you haven't managed to lock it down, then you might want to think of a shift. But as you say, yes, that in that 5 to 7 years, you're going to be waiting tables, you're going to be driving Uber Eats, you're going to be doing another job, you're going to be juggling like crazy to work your way through until you can get to that point where you can say, I don't have to do anything else. I can just do this. But it's always good to have a backup. And, I didn't worry about going and getting a degree. I got a 2-year degree in drama, and I learned everything on the ground through the unions, through the Screen Actors Guild, through IATSE and everything else. I learned live on the ground by working the jobs. So if I wasn't acting, I was still on set. So I was meeting casting directors, I was meeting directors, I was totally involved in the industry. And that's how I moved myself ahead very, very quickly. And the other thing I did, which a lot of people I noticed today are not doing it, they bombard you with emails about their resume and everything else. And what I found worked for me was something very simple. And I wrote a book called The Actor's Handbook. It just really simplifies, the whole industry in a very short period of time. It takes you from 0 to 60 very quickly. And basically what it says is if you audition for a specific casting director and you have an address, now a lot of things are done by Skype or by Zoom now. They're not done live and in person. So that kind of separates things a little bit, but it also limits your ability to connect to the casting directors or the directors personally. So how do you get past that? What you do is you print up a whole bunch of postcards with your picture on it, and every time you don't have to bombard them with emails. You don't have to, just take the time to send that postcard out with a simple written in your own handwriting that says, "Thank you so much for the audition on such and such a project," and your contact information. That's it. Then your face is constantly in front of them, whether you got the job or not. You're thanking them for taking the time to recognize you. Now, they may come and audition today, and you may not be on their mind. That postcard comes in, and they see your face, and they turn it over for that split second, and they see that you are thanking them for constantly considering them. They are going to go, you know what? I think I'm going to call them again for this one. So it does have an impact. The simple little things like that do have a huge impact on how you move forward and how you're perceived, especially professionally.
Agreed. Yep. I like that idea. I encourage it also similarly in job interviews, thank you letters should always be sent, I think. And even to put a personal touch on it, it's kind of our idea, but I also tell people to handwrite a thank you note. And it doesn't need to be War and Peace. It needs to be your handwritten notes, maybe 3 or 4 sentences at the most, and you slip it under the door after you've interviewed, and that adds a personal touch to it. So I like the postcard idea as well. And like you said, they see your face and they can identify, and that just puts you closer into their network as well. So what's something this is sometimes hard for folks to answer, but what's something you like least about your job? What should somebody know before they go 100% acting, casting, producing?
There's a certain percentage of sets you're going to work on where there's a lot of tension, and that usually is coming down from the producers and the directors. And you will find yourself on some sets where there are a lot of restrictions because of the other people or star power that happens to be on set. So you'll be limited as to what you can do. But if you behave professionally and you stay out of the way unless called upon, you'll avoid a lot of the pitfalls and being yelled at or being told, you need to leave my set. You have to learn the different personalities that exist on a set. And sometimes you can be on a wonderful, wonderful set where everybody is just fantastic and everybody's getting along and it's great. And those jobs are always a wonderful place to go and work. But then you will occasionally get those sets where you step on it and your hair stands on it and you can feel the tension and you can just tell. I mean, the director's walking by, he's griping at the crew, the crew's griping at the director, producer's griping at the director, everybody's griping at everybody. And then all of a sudden they call roll and everything's going to happen and everybody's all stressed out. And it makes it, you get the product done, but you don't really get it done the way you want to get it done under those circumstances. And you'll hear horror stories, you'll read horror stories that, you know, but when you're working as an actor and you're trying to get somewhere, you have to try to rise above all that anguish. You can't get looped into it or get involved in it. So it's always best to step back and stay out of it because you're not like a big star. Say, you know what? I don't care. I got another $20 million job around the corner. You need that job. So it's best to just step back, keep your mouth shut. You don't get involved in all the gossip and the stuff that goes on in a set that is not running as smoothly as it should. Because you'll get a lot of that backstabbing gossip going on sets like that, and it's just not productive, and especially not for you if you're trying to get into the industry.
Great advice. So I have several questions that come in. I want to get to some of them right now.
Sure.
Someone writes in. They said, "What's the most popular movie or play that you've been in?"
Well, I wouldn't say it's the most popular. The last time I was on stage, I did a show by Harvey Weinstein called the Torch Song Trilogy. I had 105 pages of dialogue to memorize. And it was a 3.5-hour play that had 2 intermissions. And I had to play a bisexual, which was completely out of my realm as a, just personally for myself, being a Christian straight guy. But the reason I did it was because I knew it was going to be such a stretch. And it's a well-known stage play that it would really stretch me as far as I could possibly go from an acting standpoint. It would take everything I could emotionally and physically to create this character and make it real so that the audience would buy what I was selling. And it really did help me move ahead a lot faster in film and television because I pushed myself to the limit. There's some actors say, well, I just won't do that. Well, yeah, if you ask me to do, triple X rated stuff, the answer would be no, not today, not ever.
Right.
1, I don't fit that. 2, I ain't doing it. So no, I mean, you do draw a line, but Torch Song Trilogy is probably one of the biggest, greatest shows I ever did, and I never regretted doing it because I learned so much, just emotionally putting myself out there and being as vulnerable as I could and stretching, my skills as far as I could.
Gotcha. And the next question is comes in from a senior in high school. My goal is to be a big time actor on a movie theater set. What major would you recommend for my college degree?
Not being familiar with what's available out there right now, I would certainly go for drama or theater and stage, or if there is an ability for you to get into film, then I would say go in that direction. Because if you want to be on a film set, that's what you want to learn. I would do that coupled with drama, with acting, some kind of acting skill. but learn the technical aspects of it too, because then not only could you get in as an actor, you get in working the crew, you can be a grip, you can be somebody else, but you're still learning, you're still working in an industry that you want to be in, and you can still be an actor. You can do both, and you will make connections doing that. So that would be my suggestion, is target those two areas.
Great advice. And then the next question that comes in is, I want to write scripts for either Hollywood or plays. Can you make a living doing that?
Wow. You can. There's an enormous amount of competition, simply because a lot of the people that write that material now are retired folks from the big studios. And it's very hard to break into an industry where the bulk of the work comes from the top echelon people that have been around for a long time. And one person may have 7 writers. They won't have one, they'll have 7 that work on one specific project. That's probably the only way you're going to get into it, is if you get on a team that writes for a specific group or a production company. On your own, you could possibly make a living, but it would take you a long time to get to that stage, because you would have to produce and direct your own material so that you have a track record to go by.
Gotcha. Great answer. And then the last question is which city would you recommend moving to if you want to be a part of an Actors Guild, or your biggest dream is to be in Hollywood? Is LA the only choice?
I believe you can pretty much go anywhere. It all depends on how you network and how hard you do the work. I think the direction, or the old status quo of LA has to be the place you need to be, New York has to be the place you need to be, or Atlanta for that matter. It's very scattered now, and I think COVID has really changed the dynamic a lot. So I think there are going to be more centers that are going to pop up where a lot of production takes place. Now, will it overpower LA? No, but I don't think LA will be as dominant as it has been over the last 50 years, 60 years. I think a lot of it is split now between Vancouver, Canada, Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, Nashville. But now you've also got Louisiana, you've got North Carolina, you've got South Carolina. Those are up and comers. Where I would venture in the next 5 to 10 years would probably be either Louisiana, Nashville, and Atlanta. I think you have a greater chance of getting into the industry faster than going fresh without a good solid resume to, say, New York or LA. I mean, I could go to any of those centers and do well, but I have absolutely no desire to do that.
Same here. I don't know if I could. Well, I couldn't act, but I could. Don't want to live in LA or New York. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining the show. Could you tell us before you leave how they could find your book? I have a couple of people wanting to know where they find that. I'm assuming Amazon, or where could they get it?
They can find it on Amazon, or they can go to my website, which is a giftoftheheart.com. Which is a movie that I wrote. Here's the book.
Giftoftheheart.com. We'll link that in the.
They get the actor's handbook there, along with stuff about the gift of the heart, which I'm trying to get funded right now. I'm trying to get the script funded, and I've been winning some awards for it. So I'm pushing hard to get the money so I can actually shoot the film.
Well, thanks for sharing that link.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, share the link. Go ahead.
Yeah, www.agiftoftheheart.com. So I'd prefer they go to the website and purchase it there. That way they can get my signature. But they can get it at Lulu. They can get it at Amazon as well. But it doesn't come with my signature. It's not personalized.
That's right. So let's, if you're interested in that book, we're going to also link it in the YouTube as well as later. This will be on Facebook. So I'll link it right there in Facebook, and you guys will have a chance to check this out. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. This has been such valuable information. I've been looking for somebody like this. So thank you so much for joining the show.
Well, you're so very welcome. And, you know, I'm behind your students, the people that are asking the questions, you know, 100%, you know, follow your heart. If this is what you want to do, look at it constructively, treat it like a business. They call it show business on purpose. It's not just show. There's a lot of business to go with it. But if you work hard, you can do it. And I have faith in them that if they put the effort in, they will succeed. And thank you so much for listening.
Great advice. Thank you so much.